Howdy, folks. Welcome back once again to that daggum Lawrence Jameson show. And if you ain't never seen it before, it's all about the Warhammer. And lately, for me, it's been all about the Age of Sigmar Warhammer. And in particular, Grandpappy Nurgle Age of Sigmar Warhammer. And I went all in and hog wild on that new Nurgle drop. They come out and bought a whole mess of models and started building up an army without really trying to figure out what was going to be competitive or whatnot. I just bought a bunch of models that I like, just like I do with any other army. And then I started wanting to enter in a tournament and stuff in the leagues and all. And so then I had to boil it down to the sizes that they was going to be playing. And I had got me a 1,000-point list that I've been playing in a little 1,000-point league. And I also been playing a little narrative league up there at the Games Workshop store down here in Atlanta, Georgia. But in between there, I found the time to win 2 championships down there at the Games Workshop store. They had a Warhammer Shadespire, which is AOS, of course, related, tournament down there, and I won first place champion in the games and all by points and whatnot. But more importantly, I won best painted warband. And so even though, I didn't get nothing but them 2 pieces of paper, it's all about the glory. And so I was glad to win them and happy to play it because I had been a little rusty at my Shadespire, but I come back pretty good on it. But back to the Nurgle. I've been building up a Nurgle force since it come out and slowly painting it like most people paint. And at first, I just bought up all the models I wanted to that I liked and I liked to look at, and I started painting them. One example would be this Magath Lord over here. I bought him up, man, because I just liked the look of him and didn't really care. I wanted him for fluff purposes. And so I started playing a couple of games down there at the stores with a little 1,000-point list with this fella here in it and a few, one squad of Blight Kings and one squad of Plague Bearers and some Nurglings and things like that. Just a whole, mishmash of things. And done pretty good in the first game, man, against some Flater courts. And this fella here done a whole lot of work with the scythe, with the 5 attacks and all in close combat. So, but it really got me hyped on these fellers here, Putrid Blight Kings. And it turned the first game I played with Nurgle, turned my whole head around on what type of army I was wanting to build. I was thinking I was wanting to do demons. And in fact, I went out and bought that daggone box called Blight War. Now I got a Stormcast army as well, so it benefited me there. But I get a whole bunch of Nurgle demons and of course Horticulous Slimucks, and I'm thinking, oh well, I can use him to plant trees and whatnot. And I was thinking I was gonna run a more demon type army until I seen these fellas here do their work on the tabletop. And the next day I went out and bought 2 more boxes of Putrid Blight Kings. Because I figured I'm going to turn my whole army, or not the whole thing, but I'm going to turn more toward a mortal side, more toward the Rotbringers. And the leader of the Rotbringers, of course, would be a Glotkin. So I went and picked me up a Glotkin. But he's too, and I just got him sprayed down. He ain't really, he's just put together and all. He ain't ready to really play yet. But he's a leader pretty much of a 2,000 point force and all. I could squeeze him into a really cheesy 1,000 point force for these dang league right here, but I'm not going to do that. You can really, it's just him and almost nothing else. So what I done was I started building force around a great unclean one that I had just got ready, and I let this Morbidex here sit the bench. I put down most of my demons, Nurglings, plague bears, all of them. Put them to the side and built just 1,000 point force that was just concentrated a little bit, a little bit half and half. Because when you got a great unclean one, you're gonna make him the general. Excuse me. His command ability is a demon buff, a +1 attacks to a demon unit within 21 inches. So you want a good demon unit, and you want something that's going to put some decent attacks on it. So I chose the drones for that, and I'm going to show the whole army and all that in just a few minutes. But once I had the great unclean one as my general, I started painting him up. But of course, he ain't done. He's gonna take a while. I started a little bit on the bases, and all my bases I'm gonna do for this army. Even though I done put one squad of Blight Kings up on a couple of rocks, I may one day get some gut rock spume or something to go with them. But these are all gonna be down on the ground in like a swamp. I'm gonna have to buy another pot of Nurgle's Rot, that's for sure, to put on it, or to put on the rest of them if I want that look all over them. And got him as the general, and let me show you what I use when I roll down there, because I'm very unorganized in most of my stuff. In my painting, my whole painting table, the way I paint, the way I keep my brushes. I'm very not what do they call it? ADD or whatnot. I'm not don't have to have everything in a certain place or whatnot. But this here, I'm pretty organized over here with what I carry down there. Let me get this camera and show you what I carry down. I figured I was wanting a backpack for my books and stuff. I've been carrying them in a box and all down there to the games. So I said, well, dang, I got an old briefcase, and so I got me a briefcase that I already had, and it's set up pretty good to where got a little strap that keeps in. I got my Nurgle Maggotkin book. Got my General's Handbook 2017 in there. Got me a 4-page copy, that thick one. Got a 4-page copy of the rules. I got a Malign Portents book for if you want people want to play any games of that. So I keep all my books stored in there, and of course I can put this up on a stool or a chair or something on the side of the table while the games is going on. It acts as a kind of a mobile desk, because I can open up books, keep them open right there. If you can get them on top of a stool or something like that. And of course, I went in and got these little cards, and that's what these here are for. Of course, these spectacles and glasses. That's to read these cards. Small print on them. But I went in and got the cards because I figured, when I'm starting to learn the army, I just kind of want a few cards in my hand instead of digging through and just wearing this book out like I was. And then I got this wheel right here, of course, specific to Nurgle, the cycle of contagion, corruption, cycle of corruption. But I paid $100 for that one because I figured I paid $160 for the game, Blight War, and I'm using them drones, and let's say that's $60 there, even with the tax. And so that leaves another $100 that I paid for that wheel. So I'm just joking a little bit. I'm gonna be using those demons and all in a larger 2,000 point army, I reckon. But for right now, man, it's a very expensive wheel for me. It is a lot better than keeping track in the book when you're playing a game, I tell you that. Then over here, of course, I got a little laser. You know, I don't think you can see it in the camera and all, but it puts out a red line. It's a red line laser. So if somebody wants to call their time to take a daggone bow shot right straight through the middle of that mountain, well, we're going to pull that out a little bit. Sharpie, then a pencil, of course. Over to here, I got a dice bag. And that's where I keep all my tokens. I got a turn dice that I keep. It's got turn 1, 2, 3 and all, and a dang Sigmar hammer on turn 1. That's nice. I got down there for doing something, winning something at the Games Workshop store, I reckon. I got a really small Fat Max 6-footer. It's a very quality. For them small ones, it's hard to get good quality. You usually, the small ones is usually real cheap because real carpenters and all ain't using this small of a tape measure and all. But this one right here is good. And the one thing you want that, I had to learn the hard way, I reckon, even though I'm a carpenter, is you don't want one of them small ones that has inches on one side and then centimeters on the other. Because you really want inches on both sides of a tape measure, how it reads right there on both edges and all. Because when you go and lay it down to take measurements in the game, you're going to figure out you need both edges. Is really it will help you out a lot. Then I got different dices over here, of course, 20-sided and 12-sided. I like to use the 12-sided mainly for wounds on larger models, if they got 12 wounds or less, of course, because they don't, you really know exactly what's up. 10-sided seem to roll over a little bit too easier. These don't. I like 12-sided. If I have big monsters, of course, like Great Unclean One, he usually has to start out with a 20-sided and then go down. I got some various markers that I use to mark if a unit has moved, charged, or have mainly how if they've gone during that combat phase. We get a whole mess of units. Everybody knows this. You get a whole mess of units together fighting, and you can get forgetful if this unit or that unit has already fought between both people. And so I use these a lot of times to mark it when it's a lot of units in the back and forth. I got a couple single wound markers that I got from an old 40K, I believe. They're just skulls. And I got a couple of these type of wound markers I use from GW. And one of the most important things I got is these little stickers right here. They're 3 inches long. And it's just a little... I bought them down there at a dang local game and hobby store. They're inch long each in aluminum, and they screw together, and I reckon you could make them as long as you wanted and make up a whole mess of them. But I use these little 3-inch ones, and they're very good for when people's moving, me and the opponent, and they're making a move. It's going to get them, close, but not within 3 inches, because you can't get within 3 inches. You can drop that down right next to the model, and it's real handy about moving right up to 3 inches instead of trying to stick a dang tape measure down in there and then try to figure it out. And then when the people have already moved, after they've moved, you can just pick this little sucker up and put it to the side. Got all that. Got this little bag that I keep all my markers that I'm using, as far as that came with those sheets, for which spells that I'm using and which command abilities that I'm using personally. Also got some dang Game of Thrones markers up in there that I use for like command points. Victory points, or sometimes contagion points. I'll use them for that. But anything to not use a dice for everything. because I'm already using it for a bunch of other stuff. So then I got a whole mess, 20 of them, I reckon, of them Nurgle dice that I got with the Death Guard. And they've been, they've been doing me all right. They don't roll good or bad or high or low. You don't get no better than any other ones, but they look cool, and they go with, of course, with the theme of Nurgle, and you would think that Granddaddy would be blessing all that. Of course, I got a Malign Portents deck back there, a deck of the cards. And of the Malign Portents games I played, of course, I've used those cards. And let me tell you, it's very, very handy. A lot more handy than looking in the book at which abilities that you have. All you really need to keep track of is how many points you have to the side to use. And then you got a set of cards that telling you how many points they cost each and all. And you can kind of look through and choose. It's really, really handy. So I highly recommend them dang cards if you play in Malign Portents. And of course, up here I went all in one night. I was drunk or something down there and bought a Warhammer Age of Sigmar journal where you keep a record of all your opponents and what happened during the games and who played this and how many points and whatnot. So I reckon since I had it, I'd start doing it. And so I played about six games with this army at 1,000 points. And I think I've won about 4, lost about 2. One of them I lost real bad. Only one time really bad. The other time was just by the slimmest of margin by points. All the other games I have won. So here's one of the main things I keep though when I go down there. Of course, I got a list. I'm not going to go into, what all you, of course, I'll show you about my 1,000-point list. But I got some other lists in case I'm down there and somebody wants to team up, and I need a little quick 500-point list, or somebody just wants to play a 2,000-point list. I got several of them. And if I brought the models with me, I'll play anything. But I'm in that 1,000-point league, so I mainly get these couple of 1,000-point lists that I'm playing from. But main thing is this. I got everything broke down into phases written in this here. Now this is for my 2,000-point list. This is a whole page. This is what happens in my 2,000-point list. This is what I got to look out for or do just in my hero phase. And that ain't counting spells. So it is a considerable amount. It cuts down a lot in the 1,000-point game. Then I got my spells. And those change a little bit because sometimes, I'm liking one spell and for a couple of games, if I don't like that spell and it ain't going off for me, of course, I'm going to try to change spells. And then what's best, what are the things I need to look out for and remember in the charge phase, of course, and in the shooting phase, and what kind of buffs, are happening in the combat phase. The blighted weapons, of course, are the putrid blight kings. The plague-ridden great weapons of the Lord Plague, same thing, I reckon. And what can the great unclean one get buffs from right there? Reroll hit roller 1, 7 inches of sloppity bile piper. Little things like that to remind me by phases and not by. And I also got the cards, of course, just so I ain't forgetting stuff. Because of course with Nurgle, man, being a cavalryman, I had to wrap my head around playing Nurgle a different kind of way. Because I'm come from playing like World Eaters and Corn and things like that where you just charge forward and try to smash an enemy or outflank him and smash him and things like that. And I tried to play Nurgle like that and it wasn't working out for me. It would work here and there if my opponent made a mistake or my dice was just on fire. It would work. But then I ran up against some good players with some better lists and my luck wasn't so hot. And I seen a lot of flaws in that, man. So I had to really adjust. So I'm gonna show you my 1,000-point army. It's over here. First of all, I got a general, a great unclean one. And I need to pull my list out so I can make sure that I'm telling y'all the right things of what I've been doing. Now this is how I've been running the last few games. I got a general. It's a great unclean one. Of course, he's 340 points. Now, I think I've been being a dummy. I gave him Hulk and Physique as a command trait. And I think I was being a dummy because he already is a running on wound and on twos with his biggest weapon if he's full strength. And with all the other stuff I put on him to try to keep him up to full strength, you know, most of the games he has operated at his top level. So I think I was wasting that one on him. But anyway, his spell I give him from the lords, from the demon lords, was Favored Poxes. Of course, that's a debuff to enemies, to an enemy unit. And if you can get it to go off, it gives a -1 to their hits, to their wounds, and I believe to their casting rolls. Or maybe to their saves. I need to actually look it up. I rarely get it to go off. Or actually, I rarely use it sometimes because I'm too busy having, you know, once I get into close combat, a lot of times I'm dealing so many mortal wounds, I'm just wanting to jack up other ones with arcane bolts and things like that, and his built-in spell, which is Pestilent Breath, I believe in you. Put a marker 14 inches away and draw a line from him to it. And any unit that it crosses going to take die 3 mortal wounds. And I pretty much used it to finish off or to put him way down low on a daggum old blood from a list I just played against Lizard Men in a Seraphon. I'm sorry, but it is a useful spell. So I'm rarely using that Favored Poxes, but I want to have it in my pocket. Now I can discuss some other spells that of course is available to him. If you wanted to tailor a list, you know, against another, because I got another list here where I drop them drones back there and bring in some another sorcerer, a Rotbringer sorcerer who has access to some very powerful spells from that list. But anyway, on to the rest of this one. Now, basically, second in command. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing for him. I give him Endless Gift as his artifact. And what that does is allows him to roll in the battle shock phase to regenerate wounds basically that he's taken during that round. If you roll a 4 or better, he brings those wounds back. So it's a very powerful ability. So second in command, I reckon, would be this Lord of Plagues here. And I got him basically, he's a good buff for the Future Blight Kings because he gives them to reroll 1s and all. And basically, I'm changed up my list, and I need to go ahead and tell you about that because I've changed my list up to making him my general. Now, when I do that, I'm gonna lose the ability to buff because one of his abilities here, if you make him the general, Grandfather's Joy will give +1 attacks to the melee weapons of demon units. And if you use those drones who already come with a whole mess of attacks, and then you have a demon hero within 7 inches of him, not knowing how he could keep up with them, but it happens, then they would get +2 attacks stacked onto the ones they already have. They just almost can overwhelm you with numbers of times they got to make saving throws. And because their attacks are all back and forth, like needing 3s to hit, 3s to wound, and they need 4s to hit, 3s to wound, and they need 3s to hit, 4s to wound. It's all back and forth like that. You pretty much got to roll them separately. You can combine attacks, of course, if you got people attacking the same unit and all. But basically, you just overwhelm with people having to roll and having to roll and having to roll. And they can beat a unit down. But so if you take that away by making him a general, excuse me, and giving him basically kind of a long-range mortal wounds command ability that he can use to attack. Even on round 1, a lot of times he can use and reach out 21 inches and use that. You make him a general. You still give him the endless gift to keep him alive, because I have not yet lost him in any game yet. I've had him go down into the 8 wounds even, and been brought back by dice rolls. Now each round he's bringing die 3 back by himself. He gets around a bunch of future Blight Kings. Then at the end of the round, he's got a chance, of course, a 16% chance on a die, 6 on a dice. He's got a chance from each one of them units to get even more wounds back. So he can get his wounds back, especially with that endless gift that I put on him. But you make him a general, give him the endless gift, and he still can take either favored poxes, or he can take his spell that he needs. But then if you wanted to you're not going to give them that double buff, then you can keep him around, because he's, like I said, I don't know if he's unkillable. You got to put 16 really good wounds on him, mortal wounds pretty much, to take him down. He's even got disgusting resilience against that. So you got to put a lot of wounds on him to try to bring him down in one turn, a whole lot. But if you didn't want him, you could dump these off, bring in a sorcerer, and maybe even this fella here I've been using as an ally a lot of times. And he's a good ally for 80 points. He's a Dark Oath Chieftain. And he gets 6 attacks with that broadsword on the charge. I believe it's got a -1 rend. It's pretty good. He's pretty good. As just a close combat helper for 80 points. He'll do you right for 80 points. And he's a hero. So in different scenarios or whatever, where it's got to be a hero to hold this, or it's got to be a hero to do that, he's another hero. But anyway, here you go. Like I was talking about, I have these drones, and in my normal setup, of course, they're doing the work of jumping on objectives, slingshotting off of my trees. And right now I got 2 trees, feculent gnarl maws. I got one of them painted up already. The other one, I just got the insides of the mouth painted, and I'm going to work on his outside. But man, at first I thought I was going to need a whole mess of trees. I was like, I'm going to plant 15 million trees. But in practicality, when I got into the game and started playing, I really only think I need to buy one more. Because even my second tree is so very restricted. I normally put this one down, this one here, the first one. I will normally drop it right near the middle of the field, if not in the dead middle of the field. Of course, because you drop it before anybody picks sides, but after the terrain is set up, and so I have to drop it. I don't know where anybody's going. So I usually drop it right there in the middle of the thing, and I want it there so I can slingshot catapult off of it. Because you got these fellas here, they got an 8-inch move. Now, I'm not running the bow blade and things like that to give me even more of a move buff. But a lot of times, man, I have found that in the game, 8 inches plus a run, a decent dice roll, let's say you roll a 4, that's a 12-inch move. Now you're up near if you're within 7 of the feculent gnarl maw, now you can charge. All right. So in some scenarios, you can alpha strike, and you'll want to go first with these guys, but usually only with these. And sometimes it's just almost like a sacrificial thing to throw a punt, just not a sacrificial, but it will end up being usually, but just a punch, to throw in their face so that you can start moving your slower army up. I haven't yet been able to catapult a set of Blight Kings on turn 1 into the enemy. I can do it on turn 2 sometimes after the enemy's done moved up more towards the middle of the board. I can catapult these Blight Kings up, and it's pretty reliable, of course, using these. That's what these are mostly reliable for. You can't really rely on the enemy rolling that 4+. Of course, it's every single hero phase. I'm gonna look here in the book And I'm almost positive that I've been playing it, we've been playing it correctly of every single hero phase. Yeah, the start of the hero phase. You know? So it's every single hero phase. And they suffer one mortal wound. You know, it's not die 3 mortal wounds. It's only one mortal wound. So it's not that devastating, man. But if you put it in a place and they're having to take 2 of those every turn, 2 rolls at it every turn, you can put 2 mortal wounds on somebody. It eats into them. And that's the whole thing that I had heard on people say online and on videos and things that I couldn't get my head wrapped around. And I finally have, of the way you have to play this Nurgle army. And that is, you have to rot away, and it plays thematically. You got to rot away the enemy. You can grab a hold of them. And even though these guys don't have disgusting resilience, they got a 4-up armor save. And if you cast down a dang shield on them, a mystic shield, or you get them in cover or something like that, you can bring their save on down. But what their main thing is that number of wounds, man. They got 4 wounds each. And the leader, and I've been running the bell ringer as a leader because I want him to be the last one on the dang field, of course, of these little 5-man units. But their wounds, man, they'll soak them up, you know, because they're saving about half the, the wounds that's coming at them. And then they just got a lot of wounds. And the leader, of course, got 5 wounds. So they're talking about 21 wounds in 5 guys. And they are pretty tough to put down. It takes the enemy a couple turns at least to put them down, even with elite type units. So I'm not afraid to go against 20 and 30-man blocks of buffed out infantry units if I got 10 of these Blight Kings and this Lord of Plagues around. Man, I'm not afraid to go against them, man, and I do, and I've been coming out on top. 10 Black Kings. Anyway, that's how I've been playing the army. Once I got my head around getting a hold of the people and then using all these mortal wounds, because about turn 2 and 3, it gets down to where you start dishing out a lot of mortal wounds. You can up that with different artifacts and stuff. A stench plate, of course, will give you. Then you're going to even be giving out in the enemy's movement phase. You'll be giving them out. But you're just diseasing them a little bit at a time. And the closer you are to them, and the more stuck in you are to a big messy battle in the middle, the more it seems that your mortal wounds work on the people it also needs to work on, the enemy leaders and things like that. You just eat them away and eat them down. And like I said, your list for things you got to do during the hero phase is long. And that's because you are dishing mortal wounds out. And at the same time, you got resiliency by the number of wounds you have on you guys. By a disgusting resilience phase for all the demons. For this man here, not only you got a disgusting resilience save that's got a blowback on a 6, man, of a mortal wound. He also, I put that endless gift on him. And man, he goes down to 10 wounds or so, and then he just comes right back up. You know, almost like an undead. And so this guy is very, very resilient. So I've started using the strengths of this army, using the catapults of the trees, and I've been doing really well. We're gonna see how well I do in the coming battles and in the coming weeks, because I believe it's only about 2 weeks until that tournament. Of course, I'm gonna give a report on the tournament and how it all goes down and this and that and all that. But anyway, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for my Nurgle 1,000-point list. And I appreciate all y'all that's gonna view it in the future. And the low amount of people that's viewing it right now. But thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to try to keep everybody updated a little bit more in the future on this Nurgle Force. I do have about 2,500 points right now of models built but not painted. That's, including the Glycan, and all kind of demons and stuff like that. Of course, Horticulus slime, things that I'm really not going to use even in a 2,000 point force. But I got about 2,500 points of Nurgle stuff, and I really don't want anything else. I might buy that Lord of Blights and run a Blight cyst, to get all my Blight Kings down to that -1 rend, and then let that Lord of Plagues be a general. No, I'm talking about, I'm gonna let the Lord of Plagues be a general. Give him a -1 on his -1 rend weapon for him. I can't remember what it's called. It's an artifact. Anyway, give him that weapon because he's doing that die 3 damage off of his exploding attacks. So anyway, what you want to do with that Nurgle? Play to the strengths, play to the resiliency, roll a lot of 6s. You almost got to play. You ain't playing defense. You're playing like a passive offense almost. But you can't really just rush in headlong. You don't got the speed for all that. Even with the trees, you don't got the speed for massive alpha strikes and things like that. The biggest thing you can do, I reckon, on jumping on people on turn 1 would be to make this Lord of Plagues a general, so he can cast that 21-inch spell. And there's a demon spell, I believe it goes off on 21 inches. And there's a couple spells that you could get off again, at least against his front line units, that would be out of range even of his fellers usually to try to even block it, because he's not going to have his casters usually right dead on the front line. So you're going to get some spells off on turn 1. You can get some spells off without being rolled against, if you want to do that. And like I said, excuse me, basically alpha striking with a small area. You want to pick somebody that's weaker than them. Pick some small 10-man unit that they can get to, that ain't buffed all the heck, that they can get to and possibly defeat in that one turn, because they have some they do have some anti-bravery things, making an enemy, re-roll the 1s and things like that when they're attacking. So I've brought them in and wiped out a 10-man squad with them in one turn a couple times. But you got to pick the targets. I have walked into dang buzzsaws and got their faces blown off, and I have run into a wall of Sylvaneth. In order to not have a stalemate game, I had to charge a whole meth of current off hunters that was embedded, and they just dug in deep into their own woods, right on top of their own objective. And I had to charge in a couple of Blight King units in there, man, and it did not go well. Did not go well at all. I did hit a dang wall. So I just had to learn how to play these guys, and I will keep everybody updated. Thank y'all for tuning in.